Hello, hi, and welcome. So the today session is the second unit, which deals with contract of bailment and contract of pledge. So in this particular unit, if you have a overview of this unit, it deals with two types of contracts. The first one is contract of bailment. The second one is the contract of pledge. There are about four more important topics under the contract of bailment, and there are about three to four topics under the contract of pledge, and the last most important topic is the distinction between the contract of bailment and the contract of pledge. What are the points of differences between the two? So, when it comes to the first one, the contract of bailment, uh, for a contract of bailment, there are two parties. One party is called as a bailor, and the other party is called as a Baili. So these are the two parties to a contract of bailment. And the topics is one topic is duties and rights of a Bailor. Bailor is a one party, and the second one is duties and rights of a Baili. And another topic is about the finder of goods lost. What are his rights and duties? If someone finds the goods which are lost, what are his rights and duties with respect to the goods that he found? And another topic under the contract of bailment is general lien and particular lien. So with respect to the items or the goods which are kept under the contract of bailment, what kind of lien the bailee do enjoy, whether it is a general lien or if it is a particular lien, and what is the difference between these two kinds of liens is another topic under the contract of bailment. When it comes to the pledge, here also there are two parties to a contract of pledge. One party is called as a pawnee, Pawnee, called as a pawnee, and other one is the pawnor. So the rights and duties of the pawnee and pawnor will be discussed under this kind of contract. And what is the pledge by a mercantile contract? This topic also we are going to discuss. Broadly, there will be about 8 to 9 topics, important topics that we are going to discuss under this unit called bailment and pledge. Right, now we will go to the first topic. So the first topic that we are going to learn, the possible question out of this topic is, what is the meaning of bailment? Here bailment means the contract of bailment. What are the essential elements and forms and the types of bailment of contract? So we are going to study, apart from the meaning, the essential elements and the forms and the types of a contract of bailment will be studied under this topic, and the question may likely to be asked would be, what is the meaning of bailment and what are the essential elements, comma, forms and types of bailment contract? Right. So bailment means, simply, it is a very simple meaning. Bailment means handing over or change of possession. Bailment means handing over or change of possession, and this is what exactly means a bailment. Bailment means whether it is a handing over, giving something to someone else, or changing of the possession of goods from one person to the another person is the etymological meaning of bailment, right? And as per section 148 of the Act, the bailment is, as per the Act, the bailment is a delivery of goods by one person to another for some purpose or upon a contract that the goods shall, when the purpose is accomplished, will be returned or otherwise disposed of according to the directions of the person delivering them. The person delivering the goods is called as Bailor. The person to whom they are delivered is called the Baili. So there are two parties. One party is called as a Bailor and the other party is called as a Baili. And if you look at the meaning of bailment once again, as per section 148, bailment is the delivery of goods. This is the crux of it. Delivery of goods by one person to another for either for some purpose or upon a contract, right? Thereafter, that the goods shall, when the purpose for which the goods are delivered, if it is accomplished, then it will be returned or disposed of according to the directions of the person who is delivering them, which mean to say according to the directions of the Bailor. Bailor is the person who is delivering the goods. And as per the directions of the person who was delivering, the goods must be returned by the Baili or disposed of by the Baili. So this is the definition as it is given under section 148 of the Act. So if you see this a simple example, you will understand what is meant by a contract of bailment. Say where X delivers his car for repair to Y. X is the Bailor and Y is the Baili. See here, X delivered his car for repair to Y, right? So here goods are delivered by X. So that is why X is called as a Bailor. And to whom it is delivered? It was delivered to Y. And Y is called as a Baili. Y is called as a Baili. So here X is Bailor and Y is the Baili. So once the goods are delivered, automatically it should either be returned or otherwise disposed of as per the directions of the Bailor. So for example, here X delivered a car for repair, which means to say once the repair is completed, the Baili Y has an obligation to return the car to Mr. X, right? This is called as a contract of bailment. And another example you can see here. X delivers a piece of cloth to Y, a tailor. Y is a tailor. To be stitched into a suit, it is a contract of bailment, right? X is here Bailor who delivered the goods, and Y is the Baili who is being given the goods, who is a tailor for a purpose. For a purpose, the goods are being delivered by X to Mr. Y. The purpose is the stitching a suit. And once the stitching is completed, it should be returned to the Bailor, who is an X. So it is called as a contract of bailment. So I hope that the student can very easily understand the meaning of contract of bailment by going through these two simple examples that we come across in day-to-day life. And if you have if you want to have an analysis, you can find out the essential elements of a contract of bailment. What are the essential elements of a contract of bailment? The first one, there is a contract. There is a contract. Bailment is based upon a contract. The contract may be express or implied. Express means it is clearly spoken out, whether orally or written, or in some cases it could be implied also. And no consideration is necessary to create a valid contract of bailment. So this is the point student has to remember. As per the essentials of a valid contract under the general contracts, the consideration is very much essential. But when it comes to the special contracts, the contract of bailment, no consideration is necessary to create a valid contract of bailment. So this is the first essential one. The second one is delivery of goods. So there should be a delivery of goods by the bailor to the baili. It involves the delivery of goods from one person to another for some purpose. Bailment is only for movable goods and never for immovable goods or money. The delivery of the possession of goods is of the following kinds. Actual delivery should be when goods are physically handed over to a baili by the bailor, it is an actual delivery. Delivery of a car for repair to a workshop. Constructive delivery, sometimes constructive delivery, where delivery is made by doing anything that has the effect of putting goods in the possession of the baili. Right. So say for example, delivery of the key of a car to a workshop dealer for repairing of the car. It is a constructive delivery. If you give the car to the repair of the car to the dealer, then it is a actual delivery. Instead of giving the car, if you give the key of the car, that could be called as a constructive delivery, right? So delivery of goods, it could be of two kinds. One is the actual delivery and the other one is constructive delivery. And the third essential thing here is purpose. The goods are delivered for some purpose by the bailor to the baili. The purpose may be express or implied. The fourth essential element of a contract of bailment is, in bailment, possession of goods changes. Change of possession can happen by physical delivery or by any action which has the effect of placing the goods in the possession of baili. The change of possession does not lead to change of ownership. In bailment, bailor continues to be the owner of goods as there is no change in ownership. This point students have to remember. In bailment, bailor continues to be the owner of goods as there is no change of ownership. Where a person is in custody, without possession, he does not become a baili. So, if the item is not in possession, then he cannot be the baili. Say for example, if I am having my car, if I does not give the possession of car to the workshop dealer, the workshop dealer can never be the baili. he should be given the possession of my car for getting the repair service done. So, in case of a bailment, as a bailor, I will remain the owner of that car, but the possession will be with someone else. So, the person who is having the possession will be called as a baili. If the possession, if not there, then he cannot be the baili. Say, for example, a servant of a master who are in custody of goods of the master do not become baili, right? A servant of a master who are in the custody of goods, he is not given any possession, he is not given anything to own it. So that is why he cannot become the baili. Similarly, depositing ornaments in a bank locker is not a bailment because ornaments are kept in a locker whose key are still with the owner and not with the bank. The ornaments are in the possession of the owner only, though kept in the locker at the bank. So that is why students has to understand the possession should be transferred to the baili to call him as a baili. Right. Return of goods. Baili is obliged to return the goods physically to the bailor. The goods should be returned in the same form as given, or maybe, see, the goods should be returned in the same form. Sorry. The goods should be returned in the same form as given, or may be altered as per Bailor's directions. It should be noted that exchange of goods should not be allowed. Exchange of goods should not be allowed. The baili cannot deliver some other goods, even not those of higher value. Deposit of money in a bank is not a bailment since the money returned by the bank would not be identical currency notes. So that is why the deposit of money in a bank is also not considered as a contract of bailment. If you see this, the essentials of a bailment, one is there should be a contract and there must be a delivery of goods. There should be a purpose behind the delivery of goods by the bailor to the baili, and the possession of goods should be happened with the other person, then only he will be called as a baili. And a return of goods, the goods which is given should be given as it is back to the bailor by the baili as per the directions of the bailor. So these are the 5 essentials of a bailment. Sometimes there can be a question exclusively on the essentials of a contract of bailment. So then when it comes to the forms of bailment, following are the popular forms of bailment. So the first form of bailment is delivery of goods by one person to another to be held for bailor's use, to be held for bailor's use. So here the delivery of goods by one person to the another person to be held for bailor's use is the first form of bailment. The second form of bailment is goods given to a friend for his own use without any charge. So here there is no consideration. Consideration need not be required in case of a contract of bailment. So goods given to a friend for his own use without any charge is also considered a form of bailment. And the third form is that a hiring of goods, giving of goods by the bailor to the baili for some consideration, for some charges, is another form of bailment. The fourth one is delivery of goods to a creditor to serve as a security for a loan. Say, for example, if you give something to the creditor, some of your properties to serve as a security against the loan taken. So that particular good which is being given to the creditor as a security is coming under the fold of contract of bailment. The next form, fifth form, is delivery of goods for repair with or without remuneration. In both the cases, that will come under the fold of contract of bailment. So the last form is that the sixth one, delivery of goods for carriage. So these are the six forms of bailment which are very popular forms under the contract of bailment. So on the basis of reward, bailment can be classified into two. So the types. So there are two types of bailment which is based on the reward. So one type is called as a gratuitous bailment, and the other one is called as a non-gratuitous bailment and the non-gratuitous bailment. When it comes to gratuitous bailment, the word gratuitous means free of charge. There is no charge at all while delivering the goods by the bailor to the baili. Bailor will not collect anything from the baili. So a gratuitous bailment is one when the provider of service does it gratuitously, free of charge. Such bailment would be either for exclusive benefit of either of bailor or of baili. So it will be exclusively for the benefit of Bailor or Baili. So this is the first type of bailment based on the reward. So the second is the non-gratuitous bailment. Non-gratuitous bailment means where both the parties get some benefit. So both the Bailor and Baili, both of them will have a benefit that is called as the non-gratuitous bailment. In case of a gratuitous bailment, it is a free of charge such bailment. So the bailment would be either would be either for the exclusive benefits of bailor and baili. So here it is benefit will be there for both bailor and baili. That is called as a non-gratuitous bailment. See here, this is talking about the types of bailment. One is the gratuitous bailment, second one is the non-gratuitous bailment. So when it comes to a gratuitous bailment, here the benefit will be exclusively either to the bailor or exclusively to the baili. But when it comes to non-gratuitous, for the benefit of both the bailor and baili. So based on this, the type of contract of bailment will be classified. Right, now we go for the next topic. It is about the duties of a bailor. So the topics that we are going to cover is the duties of both the parties to the contract of bailment will be studied under one question. What are the duties of a bailor and a baili in the contract of bailment? So you know that for a contract of bailment, there are two parties. One is the bailor and the other one is the baili. And both the parties to the contract of bailment will have the duties. And what are the duties of both of them? So now we see the first duties of a bailor. The duties of a bailor are spelled out in a number of sections. These are categorized under the following headings. So only there are four headings. The first duty of a bailor is to disclose the known facts. So known facts about the goods he is delivering to the baili. Whatever the bailor knows about the goods that he is delivering to the baili, all those known facts should be disclosed to the baili. The second duty is to bear the necessary expenses. When some goods are delivered by the bailor to the bailey, and whatever the necessary expenses to maintain that, which are of a ordinary nature, should be borne by the bailor. And in case of any loss, if it happens to the bailey, in such a case, the bailor has a duty to indemnify the bailey. The fourth one is bound to accept the goods. As and when the bailey returns the goods to the bailor, after completing the purpose of the bailment, then the bailor is under obligation. The bailor has a duty to accept the goods which has been returned by the bailey. Now we will see these four duties of a bailor in detail. So, bailor's duty to disclose faults in the goods bailed. So, it is the first duty of a bailor. Whatever the faults in the goods should be disclosed to the bailor. The bailor is bound to disclose to the bailey faults in the goods bailed of which the bailor is aware. So whatever the bailor is aware, all such default, all such faults should be disclosed while delivering the goods to the bailey, and which materially interfere with the use of them or expose the bailey to extraordinary risks. If he does not make such a disclosure, in case if the bailor fails to disclose such faults to the bailey, he is responsible for damage arising to the bailey directly from such faults, right? If he does not reveal the faults, if some extraordinary loss happens to the bailey, then the bailor is responsible and liable, and he has to indemnify the bailey, right? This the first duty is to disclose the faults in the goods bailed. If the goods are bailed for hire, say the goods sometimes it will be bailed without any charges for the exclusive benefit of the bailey, and if it is a non-gratuitous bailment where both the parties will have a benefit, if the goods are bailed for hire, the bailor is responsible for such a damage whether he was aware or not of existence of such faults in the goods. So if some goods are delivered by the bailor to the bailey, and whether the bailor knows the faults or if the bailor doesn't know the faults, if he does not reveal or disclose to the bailey, because of that, if any damage happens to the bailey, then the bailor has to indemnify the bailey. When it has to be done, see, in case of a gratuitous bailment, only the known faults are to be disclosed. If unknown faults, if some loss happens to the bailey, then bailor is not responsible. When it comes to a non-gratuitous bailment, where both the parties to the contract of bailment are getting benefit, in such a case, if the faults are known to the bailor or not known to the bailor, if some loss happens to the bailey because of the bailed goods, in all such cases the damages are to be recovered by the bailey from the bailor, right? So this is the interpretation of the first duty of a bailor. One example that will make you to understand better. A lends a horse which he knows to be vicious, which means to say it behaves madly. To B, he does not disclose the fact that the horse is vicious. The horse runs away. B is thrown and injured. A is responsible to B for damages sustained. A is a bailor. Right. A is Bailor, B is Baili. A does not disclose to Mr. B about the vicious nature of horse. So, because of that, some damage was sustained by Mr. B. Because of that loss, the B has a right to collect it from Mr. A, who is Bailor. And in case of example 2, A hires a carriage to Mr. B, and A here is the Bailor, right? A is Bailor and B is Baili. The carriage is unsafe, though B is not aware of it. A is injured. B is responsible to A for the injury. So here, though the Mr. A does not aware of the fault in the carriage, even then, Mr. B has suffered an injury. For that suffering of injury, Mr. A is responsible and liable. He has a duty to that effect, right? And the second one is duty to pay necessary expenses. So Bailor has a duty to pay necessary expenses to Baili under section 158, where by the conditions of the bailment, the goods are to be kept or to be carried or to have work done upon them by the Baili for the Bailor, and the Baili is to receive no remuneration. The Bailor shall repay to the Baili the necessary expenses incurred by him and any extraordinary expenses incurred by him for the purpose of the bailment. However, in case of non-gratuitous bailment, the bailor is liable to pay the extraordinary expenses. See here, this point says that in case of a non-gratuitous bailment, the bailor is liable to pay the extraordinary expenses only. If it is a gratuitous bailment and that gratuitous bailment is given if it is for the benefit of the bailor, in such a case he has to pay both the ordinary expenses and extraordinary expenses. If the gratuitous bailment of goods is happened for the exclusive benefit of bailey, in such a case, necessary expenses are not required to be paid. Only the extraordinary expenses incurred by the bailey should be paid by the bailor. So the duty to pay necessary expenses is the second duty of a bailor. Let us see the example where you will understand better. A hired a taxi from B. A is the bailee who hired the taxi from B. B is the bailor for the purpose of going to Gurgaon from Noida. During the journey, a major defect occurred in the engine. A had to pay rupees 5,000 for repair charges. So A, being the bailee, has incurred 5,000 rupees. These are the extraordinary expenses and it is the bailor's duty to bear such expenses. However, the usual and ordinary expenses of petrol, toll tax, etc. are to be borne by the bailey itself. So here, in case of a non-gratuitous bailment where both the bailor and bailey are getting benefit, here in the given case, Mr. A and Mr. B both are getting benefit. So here the ordinary expenses are petrol and toll expenses that should be borne by the bailey himself, and extraordinary expenses, that is the car get repaired and the bailey has to pay rupees 5,000 for repair charges, that is an extraordinary expenses and it is the bailor's duty to bear such expenses. As such, it is the duty of Mr. B, who is the bailor to pay that 5,000 to the Baili, being it is extraordinary expenses, and the particular bailment contract is a non-gratuitous, which mean to say both the parties to the contract of bailment are having a mutual benefit. And the third duty of a bailor is a duty to indemnify the Baili, for premature termination. So, if the bailor must compensate the bailee for the loss or damage suffered by the bailee that is in excess of the benefit received, where he had lent the goods gratuitously and decides to terminate the bailment before the expiry of the period of bailment. So very simple, duty to indemnify the bailee for termination of a contract premature. Say for example, Mr. A has given his car to Mr. B with a contract to take it back that car after 1 year. So the bailee can make use of that car, and he for a 1 year period, presuming that if the bailee spent say rupees 1 lakh rupees for its routine maintenance. So after 1 month, Bailor came back and he asked to return that particular car back to him by terminating that contract prematurely instead of 1 year within a period of 1 month. So the bailee has spent an amount of rupees 1 lakh to clean and make the car in a good condition, presuming that he can make use of it for that 1 year. So then there is a loss to bailee, and that should be compensated by the bailor, as it is a premature termination of contract of bailment. Very simple point, and this is the duty of the bailee to indemnify bailor's duty to indemnify the bailee. And the fourth duty of a bailor is the bailor's responsibility to bailee. The bailor is responsible to the bailee for the following: indemnify for any loss which the bailee may sustain by reason that the bailor was not entitled to make the bailment, or to receive back the goods, or to give directions respecting the particular items. And the other one is that it is the duty of the bailor to receive back the goods when the bailee returns them after the time of bailment has expired, or the purpose of bailment has been accomplished. If the bailor refuses to take the delivery of goods when it is offered at the proper time, the bailee can claim compensation for all expenses incurred for the safe custody of the particular goods which was delivered to him by the bailor. Say if you see this example, you will understand. X delivered his car to S for 5 days for safekeeping. However, X did not take back the car for 1 month. So in this case, S can claim the necessary expenses incurred by him for the custody of the car. So here X has to take the car back within 5 days, but he take it only after 1 month. So for another 25 days, the Mr. S has to keep it in the safe custody, for which he would have incurred some expenses, and whatever the expenses Mr. S incurred are to be borne and get reimbursed from Mr. X, who is a bailor, because it is his duty to take back the goods once the purpose is complete or the time of bailment has expired. But he declined to take back the goods after 5 days, but he left it for 1 month. As a result, S had to spend something out of his pocket for the safe custody of the car. So that amount has to be given back by the bailor as a duty to bailee. Right, these are the four simple duties of a bailor, and bailor's duties are these four, that what we have discussed with reasonable examples. And now we go to the duties of a Baili. What are the duties of a Baili? The Baili is the person who received the goods under the contract of bailment. The first duty of the bailee is to take reasonable care of goods. Whatever the goods that are given under the contract of bailment, that should be taken care by Mr. Bailey, whoever is holding it. In all cases of bailment, the bailee is bound to take as much care of goods bailed to him as a man of ordinary prudence would under similar circumstances take off his own goods of the same bulk, quality and value as the goods bailed. So this is the first duty of taking care of goods under bailment. And the second duty is not to make inconsistent use of goods. The goods under bailment should not be used inconsistently. As per section 154, if the bailee makes any use of goods bailed which is not according to the conditions of the bailment, he is liable to make compensation to the bailor for any damage arising to the goods from or during such use of them. Isn't it or not? Say for example, if you have given your new clothes for a laundry, and the laundry person, instead of doing the laundry, he was wearing the clothes and making use unofficially, and some damage is happened to your clothes, then what will happen? He got a duty to compensate whatever the loss happened to the clothes, because he is not supposed to use the goods for the other purpose, which is against the conditions of the bailment, right? So these are this is the second duty of a bailee. And the third duty of the bailee is not to mix the goods. The bailee, whenever he received some goods under the contract of bailment, the goods should be kept separately. He should not include the goods under the bailment with his own goods. If it is happens, that has to be separated, and the cost that he incurs for separating the goods, which should be borne by the bailee only. Bailee is not entitled to mix up the goods bailed with his own goods except with the consent of the bailor. Except with the consent of the bailor, he should not mix up the goods. With the consent of the bailor mixes the goods bailed with his own goods, both the parties shall have an interest in proportion to their respective shares in the mixture of the produced. If the bailee, without consent of the bailor, mixes the goods bailed with his own goods, and the goods can be separated or divided, the property in the goods remains in the parties respectively. Bailee is bound to bear the expenses of separation and division and any damages arising from the mixture. As and when bailee mixes the goods under bailment with his own goods, if he does not obtain the consent of the bailor before mixing it, for making them separate, or that the damage whatever that is happened to the goods under the bailment, everything should be borne by the bailee only. It is the duty of the bailee. And the following example also will explain you that particular concept better if you go through it while reading the course content. And the next duty of a bailee is return the goods. Return, once the goods are delivered by the bailor to the bailee for a particular purpose or for a particular period, once the purpose or the period is over, it is the duty of the bailee to return the goods. It is the duty of the bailee to return or deliver according to the bailor's directions the goods bailed without demand. As soon as the time for which they were bailed bail has expired, or the purpose for which they were bailed has been accomplished, the goods are to be returned. Very simple duty. And the next one is return an accretion from the goods. Accretion from the goods, which mean to say, if there is any addition that happens to the goods which were kept with the Baili under the contract of bailment, that accretion also should be returned back to the bailor. In the absence of any contract to the contrary, the bailee is bound to deliver to the bailor, or according to his directions, any increase or profit which may have accrued from the goods bailed. Say for example, one simple example will make you to understand this particular duty of the bailee very clear. It is a very nice example. A leaves a cow in the custody of B. So A is a bailor and B is a bailee, and Mr. A leaves his cow in the custody of Mr. B. It is a contract of bailment, and during that period the cow gives birth to a calf. So B is bound to deliver the calf as well as the cow to A, right? So the bailee has a duty to return the calf as well as the cow to A. Here the calf is an increase or an accretion from the goods, and he got a duty to return both back to the bailor. He cannot say whatever is given only I will give, I will keep the calf. He is against the spirit of contract of bailment, right? And the next one is not to set up adverse title. Bailee must not set up a title adverse to that of the bailor. He must hold the goods on behalf of and for the bailor. He cannot deny the title of the bailor. Say for example, if X given his car for repair to Y, and Y cannot say that he is the owner of the car, and he cannot set up an adverse title with respect to the goods under bailment. So it is the duty of the bailee not to set up any adverse title against the goods under bailment. This is the sixth duty. So students, here there are about 5 duties to the bailor with respect to the bailment. There are four duties to the bailor with respect to the contract of bailment, and as well as there are about six duties to a bailee under the contract of bailment. So the sixth duty is not to set up adverse title. So if you remember these 10 duties, and this could be a very beautiful essay question for your examination, and you can write all the 10 duties, 4 under the bailor and the 6 under the bailee, and you can get a full marks, and it is a very possible question under the contract of bailment and pledge. So contract of bailment is relatively bigger than the contract of pledge. And before going to the next topic, and I will end this session here. I thank you all, and best wishes to everyone.